Hello and welcome to our Nigerian viewers and viewers across the world. This is Lunchtime Politics, where we dissect issues of national interest. We also get to walk you through some of our biggest political stories. Let's check out our radar this hour. Senate turns chaotic as proceedings got disrupted for over 15 minutes following a clash between Senator Adams Oshiomhole and the President of the Senate. And happening now, the Federal High Court in Abuja orders the interim forfeiture of 9 properties allegedly linked to a former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva. Lunchtime Politics starts right now. Many thanks indeed for joining us here on the program. Wherever you're watching from around the world, we are live from our global headquarters here in Lagos, Nigeria. I am Kelly Egiga. In the last 1 week, the gale of defections in this country's political space has once again exposed the fragile nature of party loyalty and ideological commitment as politicians continue to switch alliances and allegiances in pursuit of relevance, influence, and survival. Concerns are mounting over the growing culture of opportunism and its implications for Nigeria's democratic stability and public trust. So this hour we get to unpack and dissect issues around these defections and the possible consequences. But first, let's walk you through some of our stories happening now and stories just in. The Federal High Court in Abuja has ordered the interim forfeiture of 9 properties allegedly linked to a former Minister of State for Petroleum Resources, Timipre Silva. Justice Obiora Egwuatu granted the order following an ex parte application filed by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. The court held that the properties suspected to be proceeds of unlawful activities should be forfeited to the federal government pending the hearing of a motion for final forfeiture. Justice Egwuatu further directed that the interim order be published in at least 2 national newspapers, inviting any interested parties to appear before the court within 14 days to show cause why the assets should not be permanently forfeited to the government. We also...
This is Channels Television's breaking news.
We have breaking news this hour right here on Channels TV. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court, Abuja, has convicted a former Minister of Power, Mr. Saleh Maman, on a 12-count charge for fraud and money laundering preferred against him by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC. Just a moment ago, delivering judgment, Justice Omotosho said it was satisfied that the anti-graft agency had successfully established the former minister's culpability beyond reasonable doubt. Maman, who served in the administration of former President Muhammadu Buhari, was found complicit in the illegal diversion of public funds totaling about 33.8 billion naira. The court found that he made a cash payment of $655,700, equivalent to 200 million naira, for landed property in Abuja without recourse to a financial institution. He was also found guilty of criminal breach of trust in relation to funds released by the federal government for the Mambila and Zungeru hydroelectric power plants projects. And the court noted that most of the funds were siphoned through bureau de change operators who converted the money into foreign currencies and handed it over to the defendants. But Justice Omotosho also held that the defendants did not offer any credible evidence to rebut the prosecution's case, and that rather than creating a legacy to tackle the epileptic power supply in the country, the defendant was living large at the expense of ordinary citizens. In the meantime, the defendant was absent when he was convicted by the court, Consequently, the court deferred his sentence, even as the EFCC applied for a warrant of arrest to be issued against him. All right, so that's our breaking story this hour right here on Channels TV. Justice James Omotosho of the Federal High Court convicting former Minister of Power, Mr. Sali Mamman. Just to put things out there for our viewers, only yesterday the new minister, I should say, went through that Senate screening. He has also assured Nigerians that things will be better in the next 3 months. Those were his exact words. In the next 3 months, the power situation will be better. But he's also promised Nigerians that we would have to go through a phase of turbulence and turmoil. And after that, there's light at the end of the tunnel. So Nigerians, we have 3 months to go through that phase, and then we'll get to see how things play out with the new Minister of Power, Mr. Tegbe. But let's stay with the Red Chamber, because yesterday it turned a bit chaotic as proceedings got disrupted for over 15 minutes, following a tense exchange between Senator Adams Oshuomole and the President of the Senate during plenary, Godswill Akpabio. The incident began as the Senate President, Godswill Akpabio, read the votes and proceedings from the legislative session of the previous day. Now, the section of amendments of standing orders, Senator Oshuomole raised a point of order, but the Senate President overruled him, citing the provisions of the Senate Standing Orders 2023 as amended, which does not allow such interventions at that stage. Perhaps you missed it. Listen to this.
Mr.
You cannot proceed to adopt proceedings that do not reflect focus agreement. That's the way that was president. And I told you to educated on this class.
Mr. President, distinguished Senator Adams Oshuomole, please be guided. I don't want to. Be guided. I don't want to invoke the powers of the office of the chief whip. Be guided. But I have.
People have been in these chambers for 3 years now. We should begin to know the rules of the Senate. I don't want to be accused of executive arrogance. That's why I keep tolerating these things. Please, there's no new senator any longer. Distinguished senator, we shouldn't just go home, fill form, contest election, come here without knowing anything about the rules. Order 20 sub F says that the Senate President shall interpret the rules. I didn't write this. So, please, Senator Oshuomole, for the last time, if you become unruly in the Senate, we will use these same rules to take you out of the Senate. So this is the last warning.
Well, let's bring you more stories this hour. The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Yusuf, is asking Nigerians to be wary of fraudulent politicians, as he's accusing members of the People's Democratic Party loyal to Oyo State's Governor Seyi Makinde, Mr. Taminu Turaki, and others of fraud and deliberate disregard for court rulings in the lingering leadership crisis. He was speaking during a media chat with journalists in Abuja. Mr. Wike dismissed claims of an interim leadership arrangement of the party, describing such moves as illegal and deceptive.
You have refused to tell the public what is on ground. And you are coming now to say, oh, we are setting up a caretaker committee. How? And you are deceiving people that you want to sell forms. I dare anybody say. I dare them say, let me see a place, office. You will name PDP, National Secretary. Let me dare them. Open office anywhere in Abuja. If you are saying that you want to sell form, to who? You will submit it where? Is that not fraud? You know that the judgment, you went to court. We didn't go to court. You went to court, and court gave judgment against you. You have not even stated the execution of that judgment. You've not set aside that judgment. And you're not coming to deceive people. We are setting up a caretaker committee who want to begin to sell forms. Is that not fraud?
FCT Minister Yusuf Wike. Well, he likes to trend for different reasons. This time, that media chat has also been trending after the FCT Minister made some of allegations and strong words there against our platform. For want of time, some of us may not want to respond to it, but I mean, it's something that has played out for quite some time now. But let's stay with other stories and updates for you this hour. The National Working Committee of the All Progressives Congress has approved a waiver of screening requirements for President Bola Tinubu ahead of the party's forthcoming primary election. The decision was reached at the party's 188th National Working Committee meeting held in Abuja, where it also resolved to deem the president as duly screened in line with the party's constitution, clearing him to participate in the primaries. According to a statement issued by the National Publicity Secretary of the party, Felix Morka, the waiver was granted pursuant to Article 13.4 of the party's constitution. Well, let's get to have that conversation with you, viewers, this hour. In the ever-shifting landscape of Nigeria's politics, loyalty has become as fleeting as campaign promises. What began as an isolated crossovers has now snowballed into a gale of defections earlier this week, rattling party structures, reshaping alliances, and redefining the nation's future. Now, as that storm continues to gather momentum ahead of the crucial elections, one question continues to echo across the country. Are these defections driven by ideology, ambition, or the relentless quest for power? Let's dissect this with a political affairs analyst who joins me live here in our Lagos studios. Haroun Yusuf joins us live on the program. Haroun, thank you indeed for stopping by our studios to have this conversation with me. So, I mean, we have seen these defections, early this week. Which has now made the NDC in the red chamber having, I think they've now, one can say they're now the fourth force, because they have about, they are now the fourth after the APC. After the APC in the House, we have the ADC and I think maybe PDP, and then we have NDC now in the Senate, rather. So, for starters, when you sit back and you see these defections taking place just a few months to the election, I think we're about 10 months to the elections or thereabout, or 11. What's your overview and assessment of what is playing out already in this space?
This is a very interesting question. Nigeria has one of the most fluid political systems in the whole of Africa. What I mean is that Nigeria doesn't usually base on ideology. And the question you ask that, what ideology really drives them? The reality is that most politicians in Nigeria are not driven by ideology. They are usually driven by self-interest. And what is happening now, or what is unfolding, is because next year is a political year, and many people are looking forward to how they can serve their interest best. Many of them are not even after the populace. They are just after
go over that submission again. Did you say most politicians or some politicians?
Most politicians in Nigeria. That is the reality. Even if we look at majority of the governors that defected to APC, majority of them also defected based on their self-interest, based on political survival, based on the term that some of them might be
What's the survival there for a sitting governor, an incumbent governor who has served his first and second terms? I'm wondering what exactly that survival would be. I'm trying not to mention names, but because that's some of the questions that we've been asking. What's the survival in there for an incumbent governor or a sitting governor who has served his first term, serving his second term? What's the survival there for such a person?
I'm happy you mentioned some have even served the second term.
Yeah.
Many of them are scared of this four-lettered word, EFCC. So many of them are trying to appease the government in power so that EFCC wouldn't go after them. And because we don't want to mention some names, there was an ex-governor who finished in a state in the South, and after, even he was a running mate to another president in another political party, and after the EFCC started interrogating him, inviting him, immediately he announced his defection to APC. Many people know who this candidate is. So many of them, due to anti-graft law, EFCC, ICPC, they usually defect. Others who are even in their first term, you might ask, why are they defecting? It's also because they want to align with the center. And I'm going to give an example of the governor of Akwa Ibom State who said it, and I quote, he said, I want to join APC so that I can align with the federal. And he said that his state has always been in the ruling party. So these are the two major reasons why many of them defect. I mean the governors.
When you say align to the center, and I like the fact that you have mentioned, he's not the only one who has mentioned that Governor Moino, former governor of Cross River State as well, Governor Ben Ayade said the same thing. He said he had to socket Cross River to the center. We've seen other governors as well, in the north as well, saying, look, we have to connect to the center. So perhaps does that tell if there's some sort of gaps or missing links with the kind of system of government that we practice? Is there some sort of gaps there that would want to make a governor of a state? Because we don't get to see even a mayor in the US, for instance, saying, I have to switch to, I want to become a Democrat because the sitting president is a Democrat, because I want to socket my county, to the center. We don't get to see governors' defects in the US.
Absolutely. You see, the system of governance in Nigeria, it makes governors very powerful, and it also makes the federal government to always depend on them. So the federal government, you might ask how, the federal government always use different means to either to entice the governors or to pressure them. A good example is allegations of some of these governors who were given, those who were defecting or those who defected, they were induced with huge sums of funds or money as projects in their states. So there was a particular governor who was allegedly given huge funds in the Southwest and he didn't defect. So another person accused him that, oh, but you collected this amount, and he said that the funds were meant for his state and they were not meant to lure him to defection. These are allegations, but we know that from every rumor there are always atoms of truth. Now, another thing is, many of these governors don't have the, well, I don't want to use the balls or the sagacity or the tenacity to really withstand pressure. We can see a good example of when Tinubu himself was in opposition. And I would say, if Tinubu even was a governor today, he wouldn't defect to the ruling party. And he did the same when Obasanjo was in power and he was in opposition. He was called the last man standing in the Southwest. And even after the 2003 election, when only him won in the Yoruba state, in the Southwest, he still stood in opposition. When Obasanjo even withheld allocations for his state, for the local government, he still stood and opposed, and he was gradually building his party, the AD, AC, ACN, till it results into APC. So many of our politicians, they don't have that sagacity, they don't have that strength. They are just after a short-term benefit or short-term good. That is why many of them, when they leave power, you don't hear of them anymore. Now, about this party you talked about.
I'm happy that you had to say something positive about Mr. President, because Nigerians have always been out there against him. Well, I hate to play the devil's advocate here, but let me try to make a case and make an argument for those who are defecting. They would say, you know what, there is the freedom of association. It's in Nigeria's constitution. It's there that, you know what, you have the right, you have the powers to associate with whoever you want to associate with. So isn't that enough for them to have that freedom?
This same constitution states that if you defect from your political party on which you were elected, your seat is vacant. Now, this is where another debacle comes in, and that is the court. Most elections in Nigeria are won long before even the election day. One of the main reasons are our courts, our judicial systems. And I think there should be reforms in these judicial systems, because you can see a governor who in a state, Imo State if I'm to mention, who lost the election based on INEC, but it was declared the winner. That's about 7 years ago. So you are surprised that even our electoral body cannot ascertain who is actually the winner of an election. Many people will say go to court. And that is why the court has been compromised heavily in Nigeria. Nigeria is the only country I know of that it's the court that usually determines even the electoral victory of a country, particularly from the presidency to the states to the national assemblies and even local governments. So we are in a situation where the judicial system
These are allegations. Very weighty allegations.
The judicial system. No, this one is not an allegation. This is a fact. What I want to say now,
when you say they are heavily compromised, these are very weighty allegations.
Okay.
On that very essential third arm of government.
Now, the judicial system should not be the system, and that is even what legal luminaries like Femi Falana, like Agbakoba have said publicly, even on this station, on Channel TV, that the judicial system, and they are lawyers, that the judicial system should not be the arm of government to determine the outcome of an election. It should not. Right. So the electoral body is mandated to, according to the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But because of the vote buying, vote riggings, and different kinds of irregularities that happen in our electoral system. That is why the judicial system is the the arm of government that has to determine the outcome of an election.
We have to squeeze in as many questions as possible. I think we have 6 minutes or less, Haroun. So, based on all of these concerns, you don't seem too optimistic about the elections in 2027.
Now, if we look at the polls of the youths, and those who were even 14 years in 2023, and who are going to be 18 years in 2027, how many of them are optimistic? Many of the youths in Nigeria are not optimistic. I was in the US in 2023, and many youths were optimistic. If we were to look at the polls, people wanted
first-time voters.
Yes, first-time voters. People wanted, even when I was in the US, Americans were mentioning Peter Obi. If election was conducted on social media, Peter Obi won all social media votes, all, from X to Instagram to Facebook. But in the reality, the ballot box changed. And there were even weighty allegations against the current president at that time. And even some of the people who raised these allegations against him are in his cabinet. Example is Reno Omokri, who accused him of some heavy words, which I can't even mention on this station.
So Haroun, I like the fact that you have mentioned Peter Obi, who you said if elections were to hold on the streets of social media, then he would have perhaps been the president. But they don't hold on the streets of X and all the social media platforms. So you have mentioned Peter Obi, but there are those out there who would argue that Peter Obi began from ABGA. Peter Obi defected to PDP. Peter Obi left PDP and defected to Labour Party. Peter Obi left Labour Party and went to the ADC. Peter Obi left ADC only after 8 weeks. For now, the NDC. 5 parties. Does that speak to his level of credibility? Does that question his credibility? Does that question his integrity in any way?
Now, that is what I started with, that Nigeria has one of the most fluid political systems in Africa. Now, it's not only Peter Obi that has defected. Even the current president has, in one way or the other, metamorphosed his political party. It was formerly, from the beginning in 1993, was in SDP. Later, in 1999, he ran on the platform of AD. Later on, he changed it to AC. Later, he merged to ACN, and now APC. Atiku Abubakar also is another candidate. He started also from the SDP, PDP, AC, PDP again, ACN, PDP, now. Even Kwankwaso also, he was also in a party, was the NRC or one of those parties earlier. He joined into ANPP, PDP, APC. So all of them, at one point or the other, to be fair with Peter Obi, all of them, and that's why I don't accept any politician, they are all fluid in their political system. They have weak ideology and permanent self-interest.
All right, we have to go now, Haroun. Maybe in 20 seconds or less, I'm going to take you back to the 2027 elections. What do you think is going to play out?
My prediction is that the current president will win, not because Nigerians majority will vote for him, but because the oppositions are too weak to wrest power. Just as the APC retrieved or wrested power from PDP in 2015. That's my prediction, because they are not serious, to use it in a simple word. They are still divided, they are fragmented. I see 2023 replaying itself in 2027, not because majority of Nigerians will vote. You can say that the current president didn't win the majority of the votes, but he won the simple majority out of those who voted.
We have to leave it here. Haroun, thank you indeed for your time on the program. Just to put it out there, the Supreme Court said Mr. President won the elections.
Absolutely.
So it stays. But most thank you indeed for coming on the program. Haroun Yusuf, political affairs analyst, thank you indeed for your time on the program.
Thank you very much. It's always a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, we have to go now, but just so we are clear about a few things, as I mentioned earlier on, let's quickly put this out there so our viewers here in Nigeria, the continent, and around the world can, get to see that we have made an official statement here at Channel CV in terms of the fact that the statements made yesterday by the Minister of the FCT, May 6th, during his media parley with Channels Television and other stations, said making money from the land allocated to REITs in Gusape in the FCT, that allegation is not correct. Well, just to make you understand, that property houses our national headquarters in Abuja. The land was allocated to Channels TV on March 6, 2007, 19 years ago, for commercial purpose by then FCT Minister and all the required fees and charges were fully paid. Channels Television is a station, as you know, built on integrity and trust and professionalism, and we shall continue to do our job by asking the tough and uncomfortable questions fairly and objectively in the quest of the Nigerian people. All right. So there you have it. That does it for us here on the program, everyone, for today and indeed the week. Thanks indeed for watching. On behalf of the production team and the guys here at the back end, I'm Kelly Egiga. Have a good afternoon.